Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to compare the tax systems of Indonesia and Australia, two countries that have very different approaches to taxation, compliance, and tax enforcement. If you are a business owner, investor, employee, international taxpayer, or even planning to move or expand business overseas, understanding these differences is extremely important. So, let's break it down section by section. First, let's talk about personal income tax. In Indonesia, the personal income tax system uses progressive tax rates ranging from 5% up to 35%. The tax brackets are 5% for income up to 60 million rupiah, 15% from 60 to 250 million, 25% for 250 to 500 million, 30% up to 5 billion, and 35% for income above 5 billion rupiah. Indonesia also applies something called PTKP or non-taxable income allowance, which reduces taxable income depending on marital or family status. Meanwhile, Australia works differently. Australia does not technically use a PTKP system like Indonesia. Instead, it uses something called a tax-free threshold. For the 2025 to 2026 tax year, income up to 18,200 Australian dollars is tax-free. After that, progressive tax rates apply 16%, 30%, 37%, and up to 45% for high income earners. One major difference is that Australia's system is more individual based. Even if someone is married or have a children, the tax-free threshold generally stays the same per individual taxpayer. Meanwhile, family support is usually provided through government benefits, childcare subsidies, and tax offsets. However, Australia has an additional layer called the medical levy. This is basically a healthcare-related tax, usually 2% of taxable income. On top of that, Australia also applies something called the medical levy surcharge. This is an additional charge for higher income individuals who do not have eligible private health insurance. For single taxpayers, income up to around 101,000 Australian dollar has no surcharge. Then the surcharge increases from 1% to 1.25% and up to 1.5% for higher income levels. For families, the thresholds are even higher. Now, let's move to corporate tax. Indonesia's standard corporate income tax rate is 22%. There are also special incentives such as tax holidays, tax allowances, and reduced final tax camps for certain small businesses. Australia, on the other hand, generally applies 25% for eligible smaller entities and 30% for larger corporations. But the bigger difference is not just the rate. Australia is much stricter when it comes to transfer pricing, thin capitalizations, anti-avoidance rules, and economic substance requirements. Now, let's move to VAT and GST. Indonesia uses PPN or value added tax. Legally, the rate is now 12%, although many transactions still effectively operate around 11% due to specific calculation mechanism. Australia uses GST, Goods and Services Tax, at a flat 10%. Some sectors are GST-free, including basic food, certain healthcare services, educational services, and several others. Another very important difference is capital gains tax or CGT. Indonesia does not have a separate CGT like Australia. Capital gains are usually taxed under normal income tax rules or subject to final tax depending on the asset type. For example, stock transactions, land sales, and certain transactions can be subject to final tax treatment. Australia, however, has a different CGT systems. Capital gains from stocks, crypto, property, and business assets are generally added into taxable income. But Australia also offers a 50% CGT discount if the asset is held for more than 12 months. This becomes a major component in Australia tax planning strategies. Now, let's talk about dividends. In Indonesia, dividends for individuals are generally taxed at 10%, while corporate recipients may face 15% withholding tax, although certain dividends can become non-taxable if reinvestment requirements are fulfilled. Australia uses a system called the franking credit system for Australian tax residents. This system allows shareholders to receive credit for corporate taxes already paid by the company. As a result, double taxations can be reduced significantly. However, for non-residents, franking credits generally cannot be utilized, and unfranked dividends may be subject to final withholding tax. Next is tax residency. Indonesia's residency rules are relatively straightforward. Generally, someone becomes a tax resident if they stays in Indonesia for more than 183 days within a 12-month period, or intend to reside in Indonesia based on several considerations. Australia's residency rules are significantly more complex. The ATO considers family ties, domicile, economic connections, habitual residence, and overall center of life. Finally, let's discuss enforcement. Indonesia is rapidly modernizing its tax system through Cortex, NIK, and NPWP integrations and automatic exchange of information systems. At the same time, Australia's tax administration also relies on integrated data and digital compliance systems. The ATO uses artificial intelligence, bank data matching, crypto exchange reporting, payroll integrations, and international financial reporting systems. As a result, tax transparency and compliance monitoring in Australia are strong. So, in conclusion, Indonesia's tax system is generally more flexible, more transaction-based, and still offers broader structuring opportunities. Meanwhile, Australia's system is more substance-driven, more globally integrated, and much stricter in anti-avoidance enforcement. Understanding these differences is very important for international business structuring, tax residency planning, investment decisions, and cross-border investments. Thank you for watching, and I hope this comparison helps you to understand how the Indonesian and Australia's tax system work. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more educational content on taxation and international businesses. See you in the next video.